Hi friends, it's Jeanette and this is going to be another video with a practice for your psoas. Just like my previous video, I'll be running through various techniques in this practice, marrying them all together to give you a complete sequence that you can do at home. And of course, you're welcome to take any of these practices out and do them by themselves if that's what you want to do. My number one rule, the only thing I really care about, is that you don't do anything that hurts you. So you're also allowed to skip poses, you're allowed to change them, whatever you want. You're the boss. So for this practice, you're going to need a pillow or a bolster if you have one, and a block. Now, if you don't have blocks, you can make one out of a towel. I have a video for that. Check it out. And we're going to be starting in the seated position. So if sitting on the floor doesn't work for you, please sit in a chair. Like I said, I really care the most about you being comfortable. So we're going to sit and bring ourselves up to our full height. Know that if sitting on the floor is hard and you want to do it anyway, lifting yourself up on a blanket or a pillow or cushion helps. It can help with a tight back and tight hips. Okay, so coming to the tallest that you can possibly be, leaning back onto your sitting bones for a moment. Take a big breath down into your body and let it out slowly. Relax as much as you can right now. And I just want you to take a snapshot of how you feel right now, what your body feels like sitting. We're going to come back to this position later and test it out, see if there's been any change. So make sure you notice what you can right now. And then we're going to begin with some very simple arm movements. Inhaling the arms up, reaching up as far as you can, and then exhaling the hands down. So as you reach, think about pulling your belly button in and really lifting your rib cage up away from your pelvis. Pulling your abs in, really using your core. Exhale, bring the hands down. Good. Head and neck position really do influence the health and tension that you carry in your psoas. So we won't be getting into a lot of head and neck stuff this time, but that's kind of why we're warming up the shoulders a little bit here. All right, and then we're going to do more warm up for the spine. We're going to do a movement that's kind of like a hula hoop movement or belly dancer if you want to think of it that way. We're going to just make some circles like this. Now, these do not have to be really big circles, especially if you have a back injury. Let's start small, okay? And if it feels right, you can go a little bit bigger. And you get to decide where the line is. And don't cross the line, okay? So if we inhale through the front, we can exhale through the back. You can even add your head and neck into this movement, if that feels good. And then when you're ready, you can reverse direction. last one. Good. Okay, so next we'll be coming to hands and knees in tabletop position. And if your knees are sensitive, please use a blanket. You can put that blanket right underneath your knees. Okay, so we're going to do a few regular cat-cows, and most people do know these by now. Begin by taking a breath, and as you exhale, round your spine upwards towards the ceiling. Oh yeah. And then inhale, moving through the tabletop position into what we call spinal extension. And then exhaling into flexion. Inhaling extension. Good. So we really only need a few rounds of these to warm up for the next thing, and that's going to be segmental cat-cow. That means we're just moving the spine one little piece at a time. And if you're not used to doing this, you're probably going to find it kind of a challenge unless you have a lot of mobility. So just know that this is something that gets better over time. Take a breath, and as you exhale, tilt your tailbone down towards the floor, just tilting your pelvis, not moving the spine. And then gradually, one bone at a time, let that movement travel up your spine like a wave. Finally, at the very end of the movement, dropping your head. And then, to reverse the shape, start again at the tailbone. Tipping the tailbone up, letting that movement travel up, lifting the head last. I'm going to be quiet for a few moments so that you can practice this and focus in on your own body. And if you need a break, if your arms start to get tired, you can definitely take a break in child's pose if you need to. Explore the relationship between spinal movement and abdominal contraction. And just one more round. Good. Let's take a break in child's pose together. Shift the hips back over the heels. Stack your hands and then place your forehead on top of your hands. Breathe into your upper back here. Try to relax the fronts of your hips. That's an interesting feeling. Okay, so the next pose that we're going to do is Anjane Asana, which is essentially a kneeling lunge. We're going to do a little special modification to make it really work the psoas muscle. So let's meet in the kneeling position. And we're going to take the right foot forward. We'll have our weight on that left leg. So the thing I would like you to do, and I've done this in previous videos, I would like you to tip your pelvis back like that. Did you see that? So this is normal alignment of the pelvis. It's kind of going forward a little, and I'm asking you to whoop, like you're tucking your tailbone under a little bit. All right? And then we don't really need to go forward very far for this customized version of Anjaneyasana. We're keeping that pelvis in what we call posterior tilt, tilted back, as we come forward just a little bit. And then you can squeeze the butt on the left side. While you're here, you may as well press your hands into your thigh, lengthening yourself upwards through the top of your head. Let go of any tension that you might be carrying in your shoulders here. So the next thing we can add is bringing the knee towards the foot and the foot towards the knee. Now they're not actually going to move. On your exhale, just do the muscular engagement that would bring those two parts of your body together on the floor. It's like you're trying to cinch the mat up underneath you. Okay, keeping the butt squeezed, keeping the pelvis tilted back. Okay, and then release. We're going to do that in the opposite direction. Front foot is going to go forward, back knee is going to go back, keeping the pelvis tilted back, keeping the butt engaged. Yeah. Now if you decide to do this move, release by the way, release. And then if you decide to do this move on your own at home or on its own in the middle of your day or what have you, you can do it up to 3 times for 10 seconds, okay? But more than that is kind of overdoing it. I have actually strained myself doing this move too much, so learn from my mistakes. So the next thing we can do is tilt the pelvis back again, squeeze the glute, and then lift your left arm. Sometimes that adds some stretch there. And finally, for the most amount of stretch, if you want to add on from here, you can lean over to the right. I'm feeling it right there. But it's possible to feel it all the way up into your abdomen. Okay. Good. So we'll bring the arm down. We'll come out of the pose. We'll come onto the hands and knees for a little break. Let's do some hip circles while we're here, just allowing those hips to take a break and loosen the tissues around them. We'll just do 3 really quick circles in each direction. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then we'll do Anjaneyasana on the other leg with the left leg forward. Okay. And the right leg back. Tilt the pelvis back. Come forward slightly. Squeeze the butt on your right side. Lift by pressing into your thigh. Shoulders come down away from the ears. The back of the neck is long. Using your abdominal muscles here for stability. And then we'll add the pull, pulling the knee towards the foot and the foot towards the knee. Ready? Go. And release. And then the other direction. Good. Release. Okay, so resuming regular Anjaneyasana. Pelvis is still tilted back. Glute is still squeezed on that right side. If you like, you can lift your right arm. Really reach high. The shoulder comes down as the fingers reach up. And then if you're adding the side bend, you can do that now. You may notice that one side is tighter than the other. That's completely normal. Most of us do use our bodies asymmetrically from right to left, and you know, by a certain age we do pick up little idiosyncrasies of the body. Okay, we're bringing the arm down. We're coming back to the knees. And we can do just a few more hip circles. We'll just do one in each direction this time. The hips are fairly warmed up by now. And now it's time to come down onto the belly. So if you're on a blanket, the blanket can go away. And we'll come down into Sphinx pose. That is up on your elbows, palms on the floor, shoulders down away from your ears, shoulder blades slightly pulled towards each other in the back. And this is a nice way to lengthen the psoas, a nice easy way to lengthen the psoas. So to add on to that length in the psoas, we can dip right shoulder down to the center as we look over the left shoulder. And then we can do the same thing on the other side. Let's add coordinating movement with breath. So if you inhale towards the center, you can then exhale to one side, inhale towards the center, exhale to the other side. You're free to hold one side or the other or both as long as you like. Just based on what feels good for you. All right, last one. We're going to then come down all the way onto the belly. For now, the forehead can rest on top of the hands, and we're going to tuck the toes on one side. Look at the screen if you aren't sure what I'm doing here. This is a little tricky. We're going to tuck the toes and then lift the leg like this, and then reach long through that leg, and then put the leg back down. And then we can do that with the other side. Oh, okay. Now your low back is about 1/2 inch longer or more. And this is a really good position to strengthen the muscles of the psoas and of the low back, because we want them to be able to hold the spine up nice and tall, lifting the vertebrae away from each other when you're standing and sitting. So next, we're going to do some cobra pose, Bhujangasana. If your shoulders are an issue, you can have your hands here out to the sides. If they're not, you can bring your hands right up next to your rib cage. Try to keep your elbows pulled towards each other behind you, squeezing the shoulder blades together. And then we can inhale up into a little cobra and exhale down. So we're not really pushing into the hands at this point. We're just using the muscles of the back, inhaling up. You might even squeeze your gluteals about 20 or 30% of their maximum, pressing that pubic bone down into the floor. Exhale down. Good. Just a few more rounds like this before we add on. Really trying to feel into, where is my line here with cobra pose? A lot of people have some discomfort in their back when they try to do this pose. So I encourage you to go slowly and find just the bottom of that discomfort, where you know that if you go any further, you're going to start feeling it. Stay in that range. And then that range will slowly over time increase. You'll have more ability to move those muscles and bones. Okay, so now we're going to add an optional leg lift, and we'll be just alternating the legs. So as you inhale, you can lift your head and chest and one leg, keeping the top of your thigh pointing right down at the floor, and then exhaling down. Inhaling, lifting the other leg, top of the foot shining down towards the floor. Exhaling down. Okay, and we'll just keep alternating sides like this for a few more rounds. Each time you lift, think about lengthening through the top of your head. Almost like there's a carrot on a string in front of you and you're really trying to reach it by lengthening out your neck. And if it's not a carrot, what is it? Maybe it's a cookie. Or a piece of pizza. I don't know. You get to choose. Okay, last round here. Good, and now we're going to, what are we going to do? We're going to rest for a second with the hands on the forehead. And here's a little trick I use sometimes to ease the back after doing cobra pose. Take your legs wide and then bend your knees, bringing the feet up into the air, and then allow those feet to go side to side. It's like a reverse windshield wiper movement. Good. And then we can come up onto the elbows and knees, and then we can come up onto the hands and knees. And next, we're just going to flow in and out of child's pose a few times. That back sure did work hard in Bhujangasana, so let's give it a chance to relax a little before we move on to the next pose. Good. So, the next pose is going to involve another flow. We'll put a block between the thighs above the knee, just like that. And we're going to flow in and out of child's pose. Or, sorry, not child's. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So take a big breath. As you exhale, lift into that triangular shape, noticing where there's freedom of movement and where there's a little bit of restriction. Inhale, bring your knees down to the mat. Exhale back. Inhale down. And try to use your core muscles to lift you here. And perhaps even engage the psoas as you energetically think about moving your legs towards your torso. And then inhale down. So the movement of coming in and out of this pose with the block between the thighs is just as important as holding. You're teaching your body to move the hips and the knees and the back while keeping everything in really good alignment. And that can challenge some old patterns that you might have. And now, if you'd like to hold Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, you may. And if you don't want to hold, you can simply keep moving through, through, and out of the pose. While you're holding, maybe try giving that block a little squeeze. Squeezing the legs towards the torso. Just a little, not a lot of pressure, not a lot of strain here. And then coming down. And remove the block from between your thighs and rest in child's pose. You earned it. So after a few breaths here, we're going to move back into that seated position that we started in. We're going to check in and see if anything has changed in regards to the level of ease or restriction that we're experiencing in the body in the seated position. So, are you ready? here we go. Whatever prop you used before, use it now. We want to be scientifically accurate. Okay, so lean back onto your sitting bones. Lift yourself up by rooting, grounding downward through your sitting bones. Notice what there is to notice. And finally, we get to make our way into Shavasana, the best part of yoga. All right, and you're welcome to use a pillow under your head if you know that you have a little neck discomfort when you lay on the floor. You're also welcome to put a pillow or a bolster underneath your legs. Okay. And as you lie here, relax as much as you can. And reflect on your yoga practice and what you learned today. And perhaps you gained some new tools in your toolbox, or maybe you gained a psychological or a spiritual insight. Just know that whatever patterns you carry with you, even if they cause you pain, at one time, those patterns were adaptations that you made to get yourself through. Allow your heart to open up, shedding a light of compassion onto the parts of you that you would like to change, knowing that for now, everything is just as it should be. Accepting yourself exactly as you are, while being open to changing later. Thank you so much for joining me today for yoga practice. I honor you and your time, and I bow to the light in you because it's the same as the light in me. Namaste.